everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Ryan Ripken Show, episode 44. Happy Monday. It doesn't really feel exactly like a Monday. I don't know, just because the Ravens didn't play on Sunday. It was kind of more relaxed. So kind of the days are off for me. But for those that are new to the show, welcome to the Ryan Ripken Show. We air on Mondays and Thursdays. Actually, a quick reminder, we might be doing a show on Wednesday. We will talk about this later in the show. But let's just go around for who's in studio today with us first, shall we? Well, always, he's a staple now. Zach?
Yeah, I mean, some of us actually show up to the shows, so.
Must be nice not to have a job.
Yeah, over here, I do have a job. Do you show up here?
Sometimes.
Well, and by the way, everyone, Rocco DeSangro is back.
I just want to thank Nick Moore for keeping the seat warm. I really appreciate him for doing that, so. Nice to be back in studio with you guys.
Yeah, we've actually had Nick Moore and Kevin Ostreicher with Locked On Ravens take care of that seat for you, and actually that couch as well. So it's been in good hands, and some would say it was in better hands. We had a record stream.
A lot would say it was in better hands, but that's not here nor there. Not here nor there.
And then we can't forget about the guy behind it all right now. Hey, Brad, how we doing?
What's up? Doing well, fellas. Good to be back.
Good to be back. It's
Monday. It doesn't. I agree with you. It does not feel like Monday. It's like the days have been kind of running together. It's kind of weird, but hey, happy we're back for episode 44. Can you believe it, bro?
No, I really can't. And for those that are new to this, and again, we're actually trying to expand, do this on podcast platforms as well as we do this on YouTube. But we started doing this twice a week back in September, and we've been consistently doing that. And we have so much more planned for the spring. But we got a lot of things still to wrap up here in the winter and for football season. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to get into the national championship here in a second. Obviously, that's why we're doing the stream earlier, because let's just face it, not that you don't want to hear Slappy number 1, 2, and 3, but you probably want to watch the national championship. So do we. So we're doing this now. Engraving Vids, that's on 44. Shout out Marlo.
Shout out Marlo. No, I was gonna say, I was gonna make a comment about his play this weekend, but
your brain
really
just
no one really played.
Usual.
I forgot that we rested everyone against you guys. So
you guys,
but also shout out Engraven, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, he is the guy when it comes to the Ravens content. That's a lot of people that are trying to chase what he does, and he puts out such great content with the Ravens.
One of the OGs,
honestly, really. Yeah. So it's
one of the guys that I got started. Like, that's one of those original guys I watched when I was like, oh, I really want to do this. So shout out Engraven. They really, for real, that's awesome.
And we hope for a lot of people that are covering the Ravens, at least, it's going to be covering it through the Super Bowl in Vegas. That's what we hope. But to run it through again, what we're talking about for tonight, national championship. Is this the last game for Jim Harbaugh? Maybe. A lot of moves have been made. We're going to dive into that. And then obviously we're going to take a little bit closer look at the playoff picture and some other spicy topics that have been going around. And also we do want to look back at this past week for the Ravens, see how the vibes and mood are. Obviously that Saturday game threw everyone off and it didn't matter as in the standings, but it's good to check in, and the Ravens will be off this week, as we all know.
Thankfully. I mean, it feels good. I think, like you said, you tweeted yesterday, a nice stress-free Sunday. It's going to be nice to sit down in the divisional round and in a good way, because we still have our season. We're still playing. Just not have to stress about okay, we have a playoff game this week. So it's going to be fun to enjoy it.
Yeah, fun to enjoy. And actually, before we start enjoying or get into it, Brad, I think you got an opening poll to start off the evening.
Yeah, as we were talking about the national championship, of course, naturally, I just had to ask our crew what they think. So far, I'll leave it up for a couple more minutes, but so far, 67% of the vote has Michigan winning tonight's game, and they are favored by, I believe, 6 points they're favored by?
5.5, 6 points, yeah. That sounds about right.
Washington's at 38% that just moved. So, it's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to it. And honestly, if I had to pick, I would probably go Michigan just because that defense is so strong. But man, everybody's been doubting Washington all year long. And Michael Penix, you guys know I'm a huge fan of him. I think that he should be the number one quarterback that gets drafted in this draft. He's just been on fire, just slinging it all over the place. So it wouldn't shock me if Washington won this game, but I'm going to have to go with Michigan and Team Harbaugh on this one.
it feels like, and for so many reasons, that it's Michigan's destined, right? And for people, I know people really don't like Michigan, especially if you're a Buckeye fan. And I'm sorry, it's been rough for the Buckeyes the last few seasons. You can't get by that team up north with the Michigan Wolverines. But with everything that's been thrown at Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan team, they just persevered. And then you knocked off Alabama, which I think a lot of people were expecting Alabama to win this game. That was kind of the gut feeling.
Yeah.
They win that game. So it just feels like it's Michigan's year. But Big Penix's energy out there, Zach, it's real. And also he is the real deal out there for the Huskies.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this game for so many reasons, but it's two different styles of play that each team runs. And it's going to be interesting to see how the other counters it. So Michigan, play defense, run the ball, let JJ McCarthy kind of be a game manager. I know that's been the hot word recently, game manager.
Oh, super hot.
Oh, yeah. So let them do their thing. But then Washington, they want to air it out. They want to go. I don't think Michigan has faced this year a offense like Washington, and Washington has not faced a defense like Michigan. So I think that matchup will probably decide the game. And it really is one of those national championships. I don't want to be that guy, but after last year with the blowout, I'm just really excited, hopefully for a good game to give us something to enjoy one last time for college football this year.
Yeah, I mean, Rock, it just actually, I think it's safe to say we're not going to see what we saw last year with TCU in this. These are two teams. First off, those two college football semifinals, electric.
Incredible. Came down to the final play in both. How could you not talk about a winner for last weekend? College football. That was incredible, this semifinal.
Shout out to the committee.
Yeah. Got it right.
Except maybe Georgia should have been in it. If you want to ask Nick more about that, he might say that the Georgia Bulldogs should be in there. Rock, initial thoughts on it tonight?
I'm really excited for this one. Like you said, Rip, it shouldn't be a blowout like last year, the Georgia TCU. I really hope not for college football fans, because it is nice to see two different teams in the national championship game. And the teams that a lot of people feel like are two of the best teams, two undefeated teams going head to head. I cannot wait to see Michael Penix Jr. just do his thing like he did last game against Texas. But that Michigan defense, like you said, Zach, it's a tough defense. They're going to be a tough out for anybody. So I'll say this, though. Washington, since Kalen DeBoer took over as head coach of the Huskies, they're 5-0 as an outright underdog. So they're underdogs tonight. He's won everywhere he's went. Washington is having a hell of a season. So I don't think if there's anyone out there that thinks Washington's just going to kind of roll over and get their belly scratched, you're absolutely wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, that could come back to bite me saying that right now, but I really don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be a really competitive game, and I think it could go either way tonight.
So I didn't really think you'd go with the analogy of belly getting scratched. But yes, if Washington can hold Corum to just one tutty, they have a shot.
Well, I was going to say mostly shout out Blake Corum, Baltimore guy. Went to St. Francis down the road. I actually played against him.
How'd that go?
Is he a Baltimore native though?
No, he's not.
No.
We lost 67-0.
What was that? Can you speak into the microphone?
Say that again.
We lost 67-0.
What position did you play in that game?
On the sideline. I was not going against those guys. They told me to go in there. I remember looking at the underclass, and I was like, it is 50-0.
So I asked Ryan this then. Why is the Friday video Zach, who has barely sniffed a football field, I'm not saying I have either, hurdling me and jumping over me and then running for a touchdown? I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, no, it wasn't running for a touchdown, by the way. It was probably like a 6-yard gain in the video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's about what I would get.
All I would have to do is just kind of uppercut.
I would just step over you.
Draymond Green,
just a step over.
Yeah, it was more so the feet, Rock, that you are more of a short king, and short kings are amazing. We love it. But also shout out you're taller than the sign. We did find that out. We did find that out behind. So that was a big day for you. You're a good kid, Rock. But Blake Corum, let's go back to him. He's a stud. He really is. He embodies what that kind of toughness that Michigan looks for. I mean, look at that overtime period. Granted, it was 2 plays, and it was the Blake Corum show for those 2 plays. That dude, if he gets going, Michigan's very tough to beat. JJ McCarthy, obviously, but the storyline here, if we're going to talk outside the game, is Jim Harbaugh, and it's a family affair. I think John Harbaugh and Mike McDonald and the Ravens connection is going to be at the game, and they should be. why wouldn't you want to go to this game? Brother, Mike McDonald was the defensive coordinator there. Everything makes sense, but the talking point is this going to be his last game, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan? Is he going to ride into the sunset, meaning the sunset, back into the National Football League? Because there are some openings. So or is he just driving up the price to stay at Michigan? I don't know.
Could be either. He's got a agent now who represents, I believe, Sean Payton.
And at the time, I believe it was Tom Brady's agent as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still is like post football, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's definitely looking that way. There's been reports of some interest, and just another rumor that is we're going to get a million of them over the next few weeks, because hot topic right now is who's coaching where.
Yeah, so should we talk about that hot topic? Should we talk about the spiciness of that? Because the coaching carousel, it is considered Black Monday, as far as this is when a lot of coaches get fired. And coincidentally, we think there could be more moves, but the ones that have been fired so far, Arthur Smith with the Falcons, Ron Rivera was let go by the Commanders, and then
we're going to go back.
Yeah, sorry, going back, Brandon
Frank Reich as well.
Frank Reich, Brandon Staley, and
McDaniels. We can't forget about it. It's crazy. It's like
it
doesn't feel like it was this season. It feels like it's been so long since firings have happened.
Yeah, so let's actually, it's easier to do the teams. Which teams have the openings? We'll just start with this. The two teams where I'll be honest, think we can agree on this. Carolina Panthers, best of luck whoever goes in there right now. I don't think there's any spot that you can feel comfortable with how much they gave up. They fired their GM. You fired Frank Reich. You are rebuilding yet again. That's the least exciting landing spot. The Raiders, I would love to see Antonio Pierce stay in Vegas.
You have to keep him.
Give him a shot at least. Give him a shot to see what he can do, because the locker room seems like they've really rallied around.
Yeah, they're lighting up fucking stogies and having a great time, and they believe in what the message is, and that's being tough. And that's what the Raiders want to be, is tough defensively. And they actually looked a lot better down the stretch. And then the other teams, you got the Commanders, the Falcons, the Chargers. And those are the three teams I want to talk about, because the one that's been linked the most to Rocco with Jim Harbaugh is the Chargers. So why, in this case, in your opinion, why would the Chargers be kind of that sexy landing spot? Why don't you explain to the listeners?
I mean, Jim Harbaugh, being a former quarterback himself, I mean, he's been able to do really solid things with quarterbacks over the course of his career, and really each level that he's been at. So Justin Herbert, this is a team, when we brought Sean Merriman on the show, and I think Sean Merriman, I could be wrong, but I believe he tweeted about like Jim Harbaugh would be a great candidate for the job.
Yes.
And then someone asked him about the Raiders opening. He said it could, but he kind of echoed what I said, like giving Antonio Pierce a chance there. So Chargers wise, it's a team that made the playoffs last season and obviously didn't go the way that they wanted it to go with that comeback loss to the Jaguars. But a talented team with there is talent at, it seems like, every single position on the field. And this was just a failure of a season for the Los Angeles Chargers. So to have Justin Herbert, a guy that was looked at, I feel like before the season and still is top 10, top 15 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
So he's got talent. They have talent at the receiver position. They have talent defensively. If you're looking to hire someone, or if you're looking at someone to bring in, Jim Harbaugh has the experience. He's taken a team to the Super Bowl before. He's winning at every single level. So I would be on the phone right now, and who knows? It could be a done deal right now, and we don't even know. I'm sure there could be reports that come out after the game, but it really would not surprise me to see Jim Harbaugh in LA next season.
Well, and really with the Chargers, it's a culture type of change. They have one of the most expensive defensive contractor, that their situation there, as much as where they're financially a little bit stuck. And that was a part there. They were a very expensive defense that underperformed under Brandon Staley, but they're looking for a culture change. And one of the culture changes is finishing games. The Chargers, no team over the last 2 years seemed like they were on the either barely sneaking out a win or were on the other side of it, losing those close games. And a lot of it was criticized to Brandon Staley taking, the fall for it. He's the head coach. But to your point, Justin Herbert, People can say all they want. He's the dude can play. The dude can ball.
Talented.
So it should be very interesting. And Jim Harbaugh, like you said, he's done it. And look at that culture in Michigan. They finally got over that hump. But let's go to another spot real quick. And it's to Atlanta, Hotlanta, Zach, because this team actually, and I know it's not going to be for Jim Harbaugh. Let's go away from Jim Harbaugh here for a second. He's not going to Atlanta. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
But some head coach going there is going into a really, really fun opportunity when you look at that offense.
I mean, I would put this up there, if not above the Chargers, because in the Chargers, you have a lot of talent, but you have talent that's under bigger contracts. You have guys where you have to maneuver. There's veterans. You have to kind of see, who do we want to keep? Who do we not want to keep? With the Falcons, you just have young superstars that have not gotten an opportunity. The past 3 drafts, we've gotten top 10 picks: Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. All 3 talent through the roof. But we haven't been able to see them completely put it together and utilize this talent. I mean, we saw Bijan yesterday. That's what we were expecting all year. Over 100 yards through the air. He just making guys miss, taking simple screen passes to the house, 80 yards. That was the Bijan we want to see. And I think for a coach, an offensive-minded coach, this is ideal. This is a fantastic spot because you are – I like Ritter, but you're a quarterback away. If you get a good quarterback who doesn't have to be a superstar, but just a guy who can control the game, that's an incredible spot to be.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at also that division, the Buccaneers just won at 9-8, and I love what Baker did this year. Awesome for Baker. And it's also ironic that the team that waived him, the Carolina Panthers, that's who they clinched. Now, granted, it was not a great game by the Buccaneers, but they won the game, and Baker Mayfield is going to the playoffs and got that big incentive bonus for sending. I think it was $1 million incentive bonus for the Bucs getting that division crown and going to the playoffs. But for Atlanta, I mean, damn. And I know the frustration. Atlanta's a Joe Flacco away from being an elite squad.
Oh, yeah.
That's not it's not a crazy take anymore with how hot Joe Flacco is. Joe Flacco, and we'll get into January Joe here in a little bit. But go ahead, Brad. I know you had a take on this situation.
So I had one on Harbaugh, but that's fine. We already addressed it. But I wanted to actually give a take on the Atlanta situation, because I would say if I was an offensive-minded coach, I would be hesitant to go to Atlanta. Yes, they have all the personnel, but they need a quarterback, and they just don't have one. Sure, you could pick up somebody like Joe Flacco and be good for a year, but and you look at the draft order, Falcons are all the way down at 8. So, Caleb Williams obviously off the table. Penix Jr. is probably off the table, and then it starts to get thinner and thinner at quarterback once you get to 8. Unless they make some sort of trade that bumps them up, I struggle to see how Atlanta is going to be any different next year than they are this year, unless they get a solid franchise type quarterback. So if I'm a coach, if I'm somebody like Jim Harbaugh that wants to go somewhere, I don't think Atlanta's all that attractive to me.
I'll tell you what, big Penix energy going to Atlanta. I don't think that's off the table.
There's I just pulled up a CBS mock draft, and they have him going to Atlanta at 8, just as you said that.
Well, so, and this is the thing, I think a big case for where Michael Penix Jr. it could go in the draft or fall or rise is actually based off tonight's game.
Yeah.
I think that people were to go, you just did it to Bama. Can you do it against the best defense in college football? That's what people are saying. In Michigan.
Did it against Texas.
No, but I'm saying, my bad. Yes, he did it against Texas. Can you now do it against the team that beat Alabama and Michigan? My bad.
Yeah. No, you're good.
There it is. I was tongue-tied.
We just want to make sure that we get it right, Rip. That's all.
Yeah.
You can speak up. You can use your big boy voice in here, Rocco. We are in studio.
We just want to make sure we get it right.
Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to grip the mic
that.
Do
you want in the middle? Do you want high? Low?
I don't know. Maybe just don't grip the mic like that either.
That's okay.
That was weird.
Yeah. We don't.
Pause.
Look like you've done that before.
Oh.
Well,
so the coaching carousel.
The coaching carousel. Actually, we're going into the next point here. It would be hilarious to see what would happen if Jim Harbaugh went to the Commanders. Well, how about that? So let's talk about this for a few moments here. Okay. The Commanders, Ron Rivera just got let go today. It was no surprise. There's been a lot of issues there. And there's actually a lot of videos. If you listen to the players from the Commanders, a lot of them said they appreciated what Ron Rivera did, but a lot of other players were saying the culture that was set there was not a winning culture. They actually said the standard and the structure was that no one really embodied what it was, what they wanted to go do, and that is to win the NFC East, get to the playoffs, be a Super Bowl contender. They haven't done that. But this is why the Commanders could be appealing to somebody. And we just know, correct me if I'm wrong, with my two reporters, with our Twitter reporter and our actual sport reporter, Anthony Weaver and Mike McDonald for the Ravens both were requested by the Commanders to be interviewed for the head coaching position. Is that correct?
Yes. And I think I will say, as much as I hate it, Anthony Weaver's the best possible candidate for the Commanders to get, I believe, because of the way, not only is he such a well-respected, former player, leader as a coach, but he has that, high standard. He's been the assistant coach for the Ravens for years, and he's always had that ability to lead these guys, and players just buy into everything he said. And I think that's the kind of hard reset the Commanders need in that organization and in that building. And so a guy like Anthony Weaver, while I think Mike McDonald, incredible and can be a great head coach, I think for that current situation, like you're saying, with Ron Rivera, there wasn't much of a standard. Guys are saying the culture wasn't the best, and you need a hard reset. And I think Anthony Weaver's the perfect guy that can come in there and really turn things around quickly, like a D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
I think personally that it would be a Bill Belichick that would be the best candidate for the Commanders, especially if Belichick is still looking to be a GM, because as we know, the GM is also a vacant.
Remember that report, Brad? Remember the report earlier? It was he wants to go somewhere. I think it was Orlovsky put it out. Like he has already kind of penciled in somewhere has penciled in him to be the GM and the head coach coming in, according to that report. So, and
it makes sense, right? I mean, Belichick's from Atlanta, or from Annapolis, and born and raised there, and so I think if he wants to kind of come home, so to speak, and get an opportunity to turn a franchise around, why not it be the Commanders? I actually put a poll up on here as well regarding this. I asked if Bill Belichick lands where next season. I put Commanders, Jets of all things, and I wanted to get in that conversation too. Chargers and Patriots. So Patriots still very much on the table. The majority so far are saying that he's just going to go back and coach for the Patriots. I'm not quite sure that's actually going to be a thing. Robert Kraft looked pissed yesterday while the Jets were making snow angels on the field. And so that being said, though, too, could Bill Belichick go back to the Jets after that whole debacle right before he went into the Patriots? We saw Aaron Rodgers and Bill talking quite a bit yesterday. Don't know what that means, if it means anything at all. Could just be them talking about their family. Who knows? But
go ahead. I was gonna say it's just gonna, Belichick. I was gonna say, like, can you put up a poll of how many Maryland and Johns Hopkins lacrosse players would become Commanders players after that? Because that's all Bill's gonna be kind of scouting in this area. He loves those guys, so it'd be funny, interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna find out with that. But the only thing that people are gonna have to look at with Bill Belichick.
Did you just did your Siri just went off?
Siri saying what everybody thought about.
Why can't we have something go without a hiccup in that chair? Nick Moore messing with his water bottle. Rocco, this is kind of a normal occurrence.
Yeah, I was gonna say this just makes sense with Rocco. I think it's Rocco set the standard in the chair. Now everyone who sits there, something happens.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin was pretty good in that. I don't think the only thing.
No, I think Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin was good.
Yeah, Kevin did well.
Kevin's a
professional.
Kevin's a great guy.
Kevin's a great guy, friend of the program, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Kevin's coming on again this week. Maybe that's another.
Where was he tonight? Did he not get the invite?
Wow, are you just over here starting drama?
Starting up drama. Maybe we're trying to get some regularity in, Rocco.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have. Toss him to the
chapter 1, Rock, that you should read about.
Brad. I know Brad was holding on to that for a while.
Yeah, you're a good kid. Also, was getting some whip snakes love though.
Yes, we are. Shout out to the Whip Snakes.
Shout out the Whip Snakes.
Playing at Homewood Field. Can't wait for that.
And the Belichick is a huge lacrosse guy, by the way. The roots coming back, it kind of makes sense, and it would be a feel good. But people are going to look at is the having Belichick control the GM spot, the roster construction plus the team. after what's happened in New England, is that something that people would be enticing to let him do again? And for the Commanders, this is why it's very exciting for someone to take over. Now, Bob Myers, who was the GM and the architect of the Golden State Warriors, and Rick Spielman, another general manager in the NFL, they are both now helping in the special advisory role for the Commanders to look for their next head coach and possible GM and all that stuff, right? So what makes what do you got, Brad?
I was just thinking about this. There's also some talk swirling around about Mike Vrabel no longer being with the Titans. And the Patriots have third pick. And they need a quarterback real bad. So can you imagine if, Belichick is no longer with the Patriots, Vrabel comes in, they draft, maybe it's Michael Penix, who knows, Bo Nix, somebody that goes there and just
Jaden Daniels is another one. Jaden Daniels is a name.
Drake May.
I mean, the two consensus right now is probably everyone saying Caleb and Drake May. We still think Michael Penix Jr. deserves more credit. And by the way, Joe Burrow was drafted number 1 overall at 23, turning 24. That's the same exact situation that Michael Penix Jr. will be.
24 when he's drafted. Not the same situation.
Yeah. Well, it's about the same. He's actually going to be 23 before he turns 24 in May. But if we're going to be technical about it, Jack has.
Is he older than you, Zach?
Yeah, he is, actually.
He is
older than me. So I got time.
You're young.
I could
I'm just saying that the Pats are in a good spot. Belichick and Belichick. I think they're going to be in a good spot, especially as far as the draft is concerned. And
I'd love to see Vrabel go there.
Do you think, Brad, that's why there's a chance they bring him back, or do you think it's too far gone?
No.
I think it's too far gone, but if there was a reason to bring him back, it would be because they had a high draft pick.
Okay.
And honestly, the Pats defense was good. It was just their offense that was atrocious.
They had a solid defense, and they were missing some key pieces.
My man Marcus Jones was out this year.
And Matt Judon wasn't 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, so all of it adds up. But then, who has the pick 1 before them? The Patriots?
Commanders.
The Commanders.
Yep.
The Washington Commanders are the 2nd overall pick. So if you're a coach coming in there, it's a new ownership. You're going to have a new GM that's going to be paired with you. So hopefully there's a lot of continuity there, and that's the goal. You're going to have a little bit of flexibility around your team and the cap. But the bigger thing is there are assets on that team. I mean, we talked about the offense earlier, Zach, before we came on. I mean, Scary Terry is an unbelievable leader in that locker room. Brian Robinson proved that he can be a dynamic running back for them. And then on the defensive side, Jonathan Allen's still one of the best interior defensive players in the game. They have guys, even though they did trade away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. But it's a very interesting spot. It's just you buy into it. And I do feel bad for Ron Rivera in the sense of you just felt he was the right person to go in at the time that he did because they needed stability. It was all hell was breaking loose, and he brought enough stability. And if you hear stories about it, we'll bring it up a different time of just the character of Ron Rivera. I think he is really cool. I get a kind of touched by that type of shit, by the way. That there's one about Tress Way where Tress's family member had cancer, and Ron Rivera during the year called him every single night to talk to him and ask how he was doing, how his family was. Yeah. So those are bigger moments. So Ron Rivera has nothing to do with him as a person, but the reality is this team was stuck.
Yeah, I think he was brought in to, there was so much drama going on with the Dan Snyder. Are they selling the team? He had to be that veteran presence of, I'll get us through these horrible years. And it sucks that someone had to do the job. But, I don't think he was ever really going to go into Washington with an expectation of, we can win games. It was, okay, Dan Snyder was trying to get out of this, and they wanted to see, okay, you can go deal with the football team while we deal with this. And unfortunately, that now it's time for them to move on with new ownership.
Yep. And we did talk about, for those that are tuning in, thank you for tuning in, by the way. Sorry for Brandon. I know you're a Ravens fan, and we talked about that in the past, but what about the Panthers? We did mention that if I'm a head coach, I don't
want to go anywhere near that franchise right now if I'm a head coach, unless I'm going to have a conversation when I come in and say, this is the way me and my coaching staff are going to do it. And the owner is going to sit up in his box and do owner things instead of
and keep the drinks
trying to have
in the box.
keep his drink in his hand and
Big.
stop trying to have his hand in everything we do here, because he pulled the trigger quick when it came to getting rid of Frank Reich. Like, that was like crazy. And agree or disagree with it, I think that was just like way too quick to get rid of a guy. So that's what you need to know. And that's what you're going to have to, how you're going to have to approach it as a head coach. If I'm going to come in, I need to know that I have the faith of ownership. I have the faith of my GM that I'm going to come in here and do my job. And I'm not going to get canned after a half a year or 1 year or 1.5 years. Like, let me kind of ride this out, see how it goes about, see how I go about my coaching, and see if I can bring this team and turn this team into a winning franchise again. And that's what a head coach is going to have to do there. If I'm someone going for a job, like, I mean,
I ain't feeling confident about it.
Be tough. Neither am I.
No, I think you hit it on the
place to go right now.
You hit it on the head, Rocco. I would need to have a conversation and be like, listen, here is our plan.
Yep.
This is not going to happen year one.
Exactly.
This is not a thing where I come in, we win 5 games next year, and you can me because you're like, I thought we were going to make the playoffs. It's like, that's not going to happen. They are in a bad situation. You need to get Bryce Young some help. And that's the other thing. I hope for the best for Bryce Young, because he is now stuck in the middle of this horrible does new owners or does new coaches want him as their guy? It's just a horrible spot for him to be in. So I hope they get someone who's willing to take that risk of going there, knowing it's going to be a process, and then just trying to help that team, because they aren't
I feel bad for Bryce Young. I don't think he is as bad as everybody is making him out to be.
He's not.
I think he is a talented quarterback and can really turn it around. You just have to give the guy a chance.
Yeah, and then on top of it,
help him.
On top of it, it just that CJ Stroud is a superstar, top 5-esque quarterback in the NFL. Honestly,
doesn't help at all.
I love Lamar Jackson. We all love Lamar Jackson. We know how talented he is. If I was going to say Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, I think I have to start putting CJ Stroud as a quarterback. If you're going to say who do I want for the next 10 years, it's him. I that dude, how do you not like that guy, by the way? But it doesn't help that your owner came out and said, oh, we thought we were going to get Stroud. You made the choice. You brought in the coach. You fired the coach. You left Bryce Young on an island with Adam Thielen, who is a talented wide receiver, but he's a little bit past his best years, with no help, no offensive line. And then you also traded away a wide receiver that went on to have 1,300 yards with Justin Fields, like 9 touchdowns or whatever the hell it was. And so this kid now is put in the worst scenario. And what's even worse for Panthers fans, which I feel for, that division, I said it before, it's wide open. It really is. There's no elite team in that division right now. The Buccaneers got it by default. If we're looking at the AFC North, the Bengals would have had the same record as the Buccaneers, who won the division. And the Bengals finished in dead last, still over 500. So for context. All right. Speaking of, by the way,
Rip, who let you cook? That was a nice that's solid. I was nodding my head the whole time.
Yeah.
During that rant. That was nice, man.
Yeah,
Proud of you.
Cooking something up.
I was practicing while I was driving up the Parkway, and I was pissed.
You were looking in the mirror, just like yelling at yourself.
Yeah.
Talking about the Panthers. I love it. Love the passion.
I just want them to do better. I really do.
So do I.
I think just for fans and players in general, like losing sucks. I mean, we heard Mike Vrabel verbatim here, and I quote, "It fucking sucks. Losing sucks.
Losing sucks, Gentry."
So
bad for Gentry. Losing sucks, Gentry.
You can't leave that part out. He
Losing
called him by his
sucks,
government name, man.
Yeah.
Losing
Just
sucks, Gentry.
But before we move on to the next thing, and for Sherry, howdy. Our New Year's is good. Happy New Year. Pretty tame for us as well. Maybe not for Zach, but that's a whole different story. But for those that are new to the channel, if you haven't hit the like button so far or the subscribe, please do that if you like what we're doing. Tell a friend to tell a friend as well. And that's all I got for that. Please, pushing that out gives us a chance to get this out to other people, and we want to continue to interact with as many people as possible. That's our goal here. We're trying to build something that we think has some serious legs, and we've learned a lot, and we don't want to spoil what we got coming up in the spring, but I promise you there's a lot more.
That'll be good.
Some upgrades and maybe some different programming.
Rip skips leg day. Speaking of legs,
Speaking of legs.
I skipped leg day.
Yes, you do.
Are you kidding me? Do you want to show your puppies?
Yeah, well, listen, it's genetics. You can thank my dad for that. I do leg day twice a week, 2 leg days a week, and I still can't grow my legs. It's just unfortunate. So I'll blame my parents.
You see, you know what? It's always something. That's the wrong mentality, Rock.
He got really as soon as you brought up legs, he
Listen,
knew you were going at him
I had
too.
it planned. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I was talking in the mirror as well today. So just in case anyone brought up leg day.
Yeah, Rock woke up and chose violence against me today, and he knows that's not going to work out for him. And that's why you're getting stiff-armed and jumped over by Zach.
That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Never again.
It's the athleticism.
I will never retweet that video again.
Yeah, you will.
Okay.
When we have, you just wait for this Friday. Hey, let's talk about in another sense that the Saints, they haven't made a move, but it seems like there's a lot of things going on down in New Orleans. And if you haven't seen what happened this past Sunday, it was the Saints-Falcons. The Saints took it to the Falcons in the second half, ultimately, which led to the departure of Arthur Smith from being the head coach of the Falcons. But it wasn't that moment particularly being fired. It was the last scoring play of the day, and really could have been the last play of the season. You're going to see Jameis Winston here hand it off to Jamal Williams while they're in victory formation. So what happened was Arthur Smith, you've probably seen some videos on social media. He's pissed off, yelling at Dennis Allen, F you, that was bullshit. And Dennis Allen even is saying, I know, I'm with you. And so what happened was Dennis Allen told Jameis Winston and the staff or the offense that, hey, victory formation, take a knee. The offense had different plans. And actually, Jameis Winston comments on what he and the team decided to do when the video that we just showed you a moment ago.
Apologize to DA because the play was victory, but I also explained to DA that it was a team decision, and I think when you have a team morale, and I asked the guys, I said, guys, like, what do you want to do? We know how much Jamal means to this team, and I understood from DA's perspective, so I give him that. But DA didn't condone that at all. You know, he didn't. However, we decided as a team to do it, and man, we got an interception to the 1 yard line. You know, like so. If we would have scored, would it still would have been disrespectful? Right. You know. So
Tyron wasn't in on it, was he?
No, Tyron was not in it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Like it was an offensive team discussion. However, when you return the ball to the 1 yard line and you have that opportunity, we just had that opportunity and we decided.
Do you think it's the kind of thing though that is forgotten fairly quickly, or you know what I mean? Like,
I think it should be forgotten, especially when the score is already 41-17. So I don't know how much worse it can get. But I got a ton of respect for Arthur Smith and the coach that he is. I think they do some incredible things. I didn't want to disrespect him. That was not my intention. My intention was to lead the team that I've been with the entire year, and we made a collective decision that we wanted to get one of our guys who they fight with blood, sweat, and tears every game in the end zone, and I'm gonna feel good about that. Yeah.
so no regrets. Huh?
No regrets. Well, this is the thing. It's about the team. It's not about regrets. It's not about anything else. It's about us as a team making a collective decision. But I do apologize to Dennis. I apologize to DA. Because
so there was a whole lot, and actually even at the end, the Jameis was saying, I'm trying to be as respectful with that. And the reporter goes, well, I'm trying to be as respectful as I think so. That was the wrong decision. And Jameis goes, respectfully, that's not what the team wanted. And so obviously, so what we're showing here is, look, the reason why we're bringing this up, because this is spicy. You typically, when a coach says this is what we're doing, it is not very characteristic of the team to override it. Yes, shit happens. And we'll get into other comments that Jameis Winston or some of his teammates said. But I want you to listen to Shannon Sharpe, because Shannon Sharpe was very opinionated today, talking about what he thinks should happen with Jameis Winston and what the Saints should do moving forward.
I would cut Jameis Winston today. I would not want him on my team. That's loser's mentality. And people will say, well, Shannon, what about when Dan Marino fake spiked the ball or Peyton Manning? They were not in victory formation. If you get down, the defense is conceding. If you want to run the ball, let the defense line up. Don't you fool them, think there's a victory formation, and then drive off the ball. You mean to tell me that's going rogue? Dennis Allen's going to probably have to go because his players have no respect for him. Right. He said they sent victory formation in, but that's right, we made a decision. I'm sorry, Molly. I would cut Jameis Winston today. If I'd been on that team, let me tell you what, I'd have jumped off sides on purpose. There's a mentality that you got to have if you want to play winning football. Jameis Winston has a loser's mentality. That's why they didn't win in Tampa. That's why Tom Brady came there, took the same team, and went to the Super Bowl. Look at what Baker Mayfield did with basically the same team, got him in the playoffs, something that Jameis Winston couldn't do.
Do me a favor. Say that one more time on camera, what you would do.
I would cut him. I would cut Jameis Winston today.
All right.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. Unk is talking how he feels. A couple of things here, by the way. And it's ironic when they're saying the Saints, the culture. Well, Sean Payton, you can like him or not, that was a big loss when he left New Orleans. And maybe even a bigger loss, the quarterback, Drew Brees. So you've been trying to find somebody after. And obviously, you know the roller coaster that is the Jameis Winston experience if you've seen him play since he came into the league with Tampa Bay and then with the New Orleans Saints. Now, I understand this is where, as a player, it's such an unprecedented thing and shit does happen. But I think it's safe to say right now, when you look at it, there is some discontinuity. But the players are coming into defense of Jameis. And I wanted to pull this up real quickly of Jimmy Graham. And I saw Mark Ingram earlier on social media expressed his defense of Jameis and how great of a teammate that he was. Here's a tweet from Jimmy Graham, who's currently on the team, saying to get off Jameis's back. This man is the best teammate I've ever had, loves the city, this game, and embodies everything you can ask for in a leader. It was a rare situation, and we all take responsibility. Nobody thought it would get blown out of proportion. Also, F the Falcons. So you gotta love that. Hey, you know what? That division rivalries, don't let them die. Let them stay. We fucking love that. But the point was, it's a polarizing move because one way or another now, it doesn't feel like Dennis Allen's going to stay, guys. It feels like even though the team was all together, it's just not a good look.
It's not a good look when you send out victory formation and the team decides to run it anyway. And I completely agree with Shannon.
The report said Allen's expected to return for 2024. So I don't know what's going to happen.
No, I don't know either, but I agree that once that happens, you have kind of lost the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, so that's where this topic goes in. I love the fact and being around a professional atmosphere in sports, that seems like a very tight group, right? They love each other. They were very happy for Jamal Williams. You could see the reactions. I don't have a problem with that. I think the problem is that the head coach is telling you one thing and you said no. And then you go on camera and say that to the rest of the media. And then now it just has become a whole charade and a shit show. And here's the reality of it. The Saints haven't been relevant like they should have been since Sean Payton and Drew Brees have left. And we've brought this up in the division. It felt like the Saints guys, shouldn't they have won this division going into this season? If you look at the talent that they had.
I mean, no disrespect to Dennis Allen when I say this, but Dennis Allen is that coach that every time I see the New Orleans Saints playing football and they show Dennis Allen, I go, oh my God, Dennis Allen's the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. He's one of those coaches where I feel like they've been so mediocre. And they've had Derek Carr, they've had Jameis Winston, they've had talent. I mean, you have Kamara. I'm not really going to put Michael Thomas in there because that's, as a fantasy owner of him the past 4 years, it hasn't worked out. But there has been talent there, and they've been sitting in mediocrity. So maybe it's just not the worst thing if they move on from Dennis Allen. I think that was kind of that last play. It's hard to bring him back after that happened.
Well, and right now, and again, it does coincide with Drew Brees, right? Rock, with him leaving and Sean Payton leaving. Those are the guys. But the last two seasons, Saints 7-10. This year they were 9-8. But again, going into the season, you had the most experienced quarterback on your roster. You had the most pieces, both offensively and defensively. And all of a sudden, it's the Tampa Bay Bucks win the tiebreaker and representing the NFC South.
Rip, you want to put on your professional hat on for a second?
I'd love to.
Because I don't know. It's Jamal Williams. He clearly had an incentive there, correct, for them to score that touchdown and get him in the end zone. That was the deal. Have you been on a team where something like that has happened? And what was the conversation in the locker room like afterwards? Like, if you're Dennis Allen, what are you saying? Are you ripping your players up and down? Like, are you having that conversation with the guys? Are you pissed off? Are you upset? Are you just like, damn, I might have lost the locker room? Like, say that you were asked to bunt, you were asked to lay down a sacrifice bunt, and instead you decided to brush off the sign and hit a home run. It happens. Good things happen. You got points. You got to run, but it wasn't what your coach, your manager wanted you to do. What is that conversation like in the locker room or the clubhouse afterwards?
Well, if you don't hit the home run, your ass is grass.
Yeah, but even if you do though, like,
no, but I understand your point. Yeah, either way, the coach is going to be pissed. But there are in some cases where I have seen that where guys missed a sign, the coach is pissed, but because something great happened, they can laugh it off. And also depends on what's going on in the season too. If you're on a team where everything is going right, and someone says, "Oh, screw it, I missed the sign," you can pull them aside and go, "Hey, like what the hell was that?" And you can dive into them. Where it gets really tough is when you're in a situation. I would consider New Orleans in this situation. The team was not in that position. There was a lot more turmoil. There's a lot more, not friction in the locker room, but from the outside. The team's not playing as well. And I think that's what everyone's looking at. Winning solves everything. So the Saints didn't win enough for me in that situation. Personally, I've been on teams where we got off to great starts and we could look away from some of the other stuff because the team was together. But I've had seasons where we started losing games, shit hit the fan, and maybe the team was together, but there was tension with the coaching staff and the guys. In baseball, it's a little bit different. You're going out there to try to win each time, but it's not like hey, victory formation, run this play. It's you're trying to go and hit the ball, play defense, pitch, hit. You're not trying to throw a game. You know what I mean? And
I think it's just go ahead, Brad.
I was just going to say, that's the big thing for me. Like, they were lined up in victory formation.
Yep.
They could have easily injured somebody on the Falcon side of the ball. And I think that ultimately that's what it comes down to. Like, if you wanted to do something for Allen, then call a timeout and then discuss going forward because of that. But like, the fact of the matter is that you were already in victory formation. The defense, as Shannon Sharp said, conceded. And so then you run the ball and then you risk injury to somebody. It could have been something where they're not back at the beginning of the season. They, tear ACL, something happens,
Yeah.
We've seen crazier things. And so I think that's ultimately why Shannon Sharp was so angry, was because not because of the touchdown that was scored itself, but that somebody could have been seriously hurt over it because they were lined up the way they were.
Foot off the gas a little bit, Brad. Yeah.
Like Brad, I have no issue with them, what they did. It's the fact that they did it in victory formation. And it's kind of like in your scenario, it's like if the other team was just tossing the ball over the plate and it's like, okay, we're trying to get out of here. You guys are bunting it so we can toss it to first and just end this game. And then you hit a home run. And knowing it's a soft toss pitch, they knew the defense when they lined up in victory formation was just going to sit there, and then they quick snap it, give it to Jamal Williams. And like, even if you watch the video, like the linebackers and safeties for the Falcons are like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, did they just run a play? If they would have walked up there in I formation, in an actual formation and ran it, then in the Falcons book, you got to stop.
Smith still might have been pissed off at that.
Yeah,
he's running up the score at that point. But I think he was more mad because of that, because of the formation they lined up in, and then they went ahead and did that.
Yeah, I mean, James makes a point. They intercepted it, got to the 1 yard line. If they would have made a pick six, I don't think it's a big deal. They go down to the 1, and then they saying, "Hey, we want to get Williams this incentive. We're going to line up in I formation and see if he can get this." I look at that very differently than lining up in I formation or in victory formation, kind of giving the, hey, we're going home. We know this game doesn't matter anymore, yada, yada. Oh, it's like we're handing it off so this guy can get it.
Yeah, well, and I think the bigger part is we've seen some weird shit happen in formations where it's not supposed to be. And you're right. It's someone relaxes, say a defensive lineman, then they are surprised and they dive low and someone gets hurt or some shit happens. That's what you look at.
You know where I really think this relates is, remember, what was it, 2 years ago, the Ravens against the Broncos on the final play ran the ball to get to 100 yards against Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio went off.
He's still pissed about it.
Yeah, he's still pissed about it. But the difference is the Ravens did not line up. Everyone thought they were going to go take a knee, and they lined up in shotgun, and everyone was like, wait a second, are they going to? And the whole defense is yelling like they're running a play and they're getting ready. If the Ravens would have lined up in victory formation, then tossed it, and that was the way that they get it, that is very different than how they did it. So My biggest concern is that they did it out of victory formation.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the here's the thing. You got the shit beat out of you if you're the Falcons, and that sucks. You had another opportunity where you faltered down the stretch. You finished at 7-10, 3 straight years of Arthur Smith, and the Falcons finishing 7-10. And if you're the Saints, Jamal Williams, the other reason, or the main reason, when we talk about the incentive, he had all those touchdowns last year with the Lions. That was his first touchdown of the season. And as far as the camaraderie, I love that the guys are so close and together. Like I love that. It's more so of now this becomes a talking point, and at the end of the day, the Saints aren't going to the playoffs again. And that's really where the glaring things. Winning fixes a lot of issues. And the one thing I say that pisses guys off in baseball, thinking about this, Zach, was when a team's up big and the team that's up big bunts. That's the no-no in baseball. You're up like 9 runs or some shit, and you lay down a bunt. You better be ready for one in your ribs, because it's coming. Because that's one thing of like, dude, what the hell? Back off. And I know some comebacks can happen and all this shit, but it's the unwritten rule. If you're going to keep beating us, smack the hell out of the ball like you've probably been doing the whole game.
There's no need to move runners over, try to advance a guy over,
or bunt, just bunt for a hit.
Yeah, like there's rules.
Don't do it.
Yeah, there's unwritten rules, and one of them is you do not run a play out of victory formation.
Yeah, well, it is now. It is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those unwritten rules that I guess is now more written than it was. I mean, because before I don't think anyone.
Yeah, no one talked about it. Maybe pencil it in.
Yeah, and I will say the whole, difference with the fake spike and the fake kneel is fake spike is a full play. Like you are obviously going to stop the ball to continue to play. Like, and you're faking the.
Wait, would they get the point? Is Rocker still there?
No, he's coming back.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Can we? Oh,
he just sit down. Yeah, he just sat down.
Literally asked. He asked to pee.
That's put my headphones back in.
Yeah, you can't even hear you right now.
We all try to go.
I just saying this. I could never do Scott Hansen's job. Dude, I have such a weak bladder. It's ridiculous.
Not all.
I should probably
didn't help that you had beers before the show.
I only had a few.
Only had a few.
I hydrate a lot driving up the Parkway, but I always go before we start the show.
I think it's the water too. I'm drinking.
He went before we got on too, which is even more crazy.
Yeah, you went to the bathroom before you went on.
Small bladder.
Yeah, we'll
listen.
I thought I was going to.
I have a small bladder too. I
thought I was going to come back, no problems. No one was going to call me out as usual.
No, you know who's going to call you out.
Brad, always.
No one else specifically, just Brad. All right. Speaking of, Rocco just made an exit.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
And the Saints didn't. The Saints exited. We're exiting that conversation. The Saints aren't in the playoffs. But speaking of exits in general, a few players that we want to talk about. There was some goodbyes yesterday. Derrick Henry said thank you to the fans. Then it kind of felt like that was this final moment with the Tennessee Titans, and what a run it's been. And maybe Derrick Henry will be a free agent and be on the move somewhere else. Then you have a guy like Justin Fields, where it felt like if the Bears beat the Packers, it really felt harder to see the Bears move away, because they can't beat the Packers over the last 12 years. I think it's been maybe once. I was looking it up. I think it was once or twice over the last 12 years. It's been extremely challenging for the Bears to beat the Packers. But we're going to play 2 clips, because the other player then is another running back, by the way. But let's start with Justin Fields. Just want to his words in case this is the end in Chicago.
I gave him my all. So whether it's here or not, I have no regrets. Shout out to you guys for making my job a little bit harder. But just to the city of Chicago, love y'all. Appreciate the fans and the support from all the Bears. In case this is my last rodeo with y'all, and just appreciate y'all for everything. So thanks.
I'd hate to see him go. I really want to see him continue to build there, but you can kind of just feel it. It just felt more evident after that loss to the Packers, and they couldn't get in the end zone. And they couldn't protect him either, though, by the way. And also, he got smacked on sliding to the ground, too. Could have been a potential unsportsmanlike as he was giving himself up on the run. But guess we'll have to find out. We speculated so much with Justin Fields. but I love the fact of all the adversity that he was in a bad situation for a couple of years. And then finally it looked like he's made a bunch of strides. And I do believe him going to the right spot, he can make a significant impact. I hope that's in Chicago, but it might not. But talk about another player that made an impact on the franchise, but didn't necessarily result in what they wanted. That running back that I was referring to a moment ago, Saquon Barkley. And we know that Saquon Barkley got franchise tagged this past season, and that was tough for him. Well, Saquon made it a little bit more clear of what he wants or expects this offseason now that the year is over.
How frustrating is it to not be in the playoffs and to know that your season ends before the fun begins?
I mean, I think it's more frustrating when you first realize you're eliminated, which was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now you come to this game knowing that this is the last game of the year. But the beauty of it is, it's not the beauty of it, it's just the nature of the NFL, that this is the last time you're going to be in the locker room. No matter what, this locker room is going to be completely different. That's how it works. Through my 6 years, every year it's been a whole new team. Obviously, you keep a lot of the key players and core players, but you're going to have new players every year. So to go out on a win with these guys is meaningful. It means a lot. And I just make sure that I went around and told every single player that I'm thankful for them, and it was an honor to play alongside with all these guys.
Just handles it the right way. He always does. He's one of those players where I feel like he has been in so many crappy situations over the past few years, and every time he just handles it like a professional and is very just upfront about being like, hey, listen, I want to be here, but if they don't want me here, don't make this a thing about, okay, we'll keep you on the franchise tag, see if we can trade you, see what the value is. He's like, either you want me here or you don't. Let's not play this game again, because he wants to go somewhere where he's wanted and he can win.
Yeah, exactly. And to clarify this, I was referring because in the comments of him talking about if franchise was an option, he didn't get franchised last year. He ended up signing that 1-year deal. Rock, was that right?
Well,
yeah, it was a 1-year deal. No, basically, because it was a 1-year deal, like $1 million more.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was an $11 million deal where the franchise tag would have been like 10 mil, 10.5 mil or something.
Yeah, so
like
he was franchise tagged all throughout the summer, and then on the final day, because there was all the Zoom meetings with the running backs about what they were going to do, and then a few days later he signed. His thing was he made, I think it was like 1.5 million more.
Everyone was like kind of like surprised. They were
so he was franchise tagged for the first part, but they did agree to a deal.
They agreed to a deal, but again, the process that he hated the fact of is that we could still put you on this 1-year deal again. And I think for him, he goes, I've given what I've given to this organization. If you're gonna let me go, but don't wait it out to the end, because obviously that pisses him off. But that's the business side of it. They might do it, or maybe we will see the end of Saquon in New York. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would like to see Saquon Barkley. I know he's had some injuries.
He deserves to be on a contender.
Well,
whether that happens or not, Zach.
Come to Baltimore.
He deserves to be on a
to
contender.
the Ravens. I would love.
He's too talented.
He's one of the few players I actually.
It sucks seeing a player's talent wasted, and I know he's got the injury history, but how talented he is when he's healthy. It's like he could help a team, just not necessarily like change their offense, but I would go as far as he could change an offense. He's a game changer when he's got the ball out there.
Yeah, I mean he just adds a whole different element to everything about an offense, because what he can do with his legs, blocking, and in the receiving game. So.
Yeah, I mean, and also I know the injuries, people can be turned off by that, but it also means he physically hasn't actually been worn out for all these years. It's been tough, and when they use him, they use him. But Saquon Barkley, there is only a handful of backs that are as explosive and as dynamic as him. Should be fun to watch, but it also will be interesting to see what happens with Derrick Henry, especially where he is at his career, but definitely can be a force. And obviously the biggest one, Justin Fields. I saw a comment right here. Fields, Atlanta equals fun. I'll tell you what, that does seem pretty damn fun. But it's got to be the right coach that wants him to go in there. Before we dive into then Ravens stuff, because I know a lot of people love the Ravens that follow us here. And if you're new to the chat here, hit that like and subscribe or comment button, whatever you want to do, saying that that you're here. We love interacting and we appreciate it. But before we get into that, we want to touch on one more topic because it kind of involves what we do in some cases, meaning a different type of media, so to speak. And the biggest name in that type of independent media, now he's with ESPN, is Pat McAfee. Mm-hmm. But the biggest news of this was in the last few days, Pat McAfee has not walked back any comments when he's actually been very direct about how he's felt. And a couple days ago, to give you guys context here, Pat McAfee went on a show and said that he felt there was a lot of support from ESPN, except one specific person that was trying to sabotage them. And if I'm not mistaken, Rock, the person he was referring to is one of the high executives of ESPN.
Yeah. You want to play the clip?
Yeah, we'll play the clip. This is the clip from today of Pat McAfee talking about his comments from the days prior.
Here in Houston, Texas, at the national championship. ESPN has set us up pretty good here.
Oh, yeah, they have.
Now, there are some comments about one particular person at ESPN. Sure. That I made only on the YouTube ESPN Plus show. That wasn't even on linear TV.
What was that?
I didn't know anybody was going to hear it because it was just on digital.
And no one does digital.
I guess everybody did hear it. It was a topic of discussion, obviously, the entire weekend.
Sure.
And the only thing that I'm like super bummed out about it all is that a guy that we like a lot, a man that watched the game with us in the suite, Burke Magnus, who is currently new guy in charge at ESPN, right below Jimmy Pitaro. I guess he was kind of made to look bad because of what I did and how I did it. I would like to let everybody know we love Burke Magnus.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Love Burke Magnus.
Love you, Burke.
And also love Jimmy Pitaro.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Love Bob Iger.
What?
But there is quite a transition era here, between the old and the new. New. And the old don't like what the new be do. You know what I mean? So there is certainly going to be a couple of that, but we're very thankful. A lot of people are saying I'm trying to get fired. No way.
Whoa.
What ESPN has been able to do for us, more specifically, whenever they do things like this, you have no idea about the crew behind the scenes here that we've been working with basically all year. Not only on game day, but for our show, whenever we're traveling, we got nothing but love for all of these people. Now, there's certainly people we do not like. Certainly.
Naturally.
And they do not like us. That's how it's going to be. And I don't take back anything that I said about said person. But the overall storyline about us and ESPN, I think people need to remember. We're strong, baby.
Bingo.
We are strong, baby. And we all understand what the future looks like. There's just some old hags that potentially don't. But we will move forward to that. Speaking of the future, playoff picture is...
All right. So I think this whole situation, if you guys didn't catch the entire context from what happened on Friday, he basically talked about how Norby, it's a weird name anyway,
Williamson,
Norby Williamson, who's one of the executives at ESPN.
Yeah, but who names their kid Norby, or who nicknames themselves Norby? I don't. But anyways, regardless,
back to the context.
He's ripping this guy.
Goodness.
I'm just saying, and you look at the guy, he looks like a Norby, to be honest with you. But you look at, so he basically was looking at the linear television numbers and not including the ESPN Plus, not including YouTube numbers. And the Pat McAfee show is bringing in collectively 500,000 viewers per episode, per day. And that is pretty much in line with what they're doing with First Take. First Take has a little bit more, I think 600,000-700,000, whatever, but it is insane numbers what Pat McAfee is actually bringing to ESPN. So I see a couple people talking about how Pat McAfee better watch what he says. I think he's almost too big to fail. He'd have to do something egregious to get let go from ESPN at this point because of the amount of eyeballs and exposure he's bringing to ESPN and what it's also doing for his brand. And honestly, I love it. It's paving the way for guys like us, Ryan, and giving us a shot at really making a name for ourselves so that we can put it to the big guy, so to speak. It's no longer going to be the big three media that we have to compete with. We just compete with ourselves. And that is what is so awesome. And to see that what Pat McAfee's been able to do up to this point has been truly amazing. It's been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, I think his evaluation when he was describing it before, I mean, I think he was saying is in the hundreds of millions is the Pat McAfee show of what the value of that brand is now. And so
it's a $500 million.
Right. And if you look at what they've done on YouTube alone, they have over 2.5 million subscribers, almost 2 billion views. This has been tremendous for what Pat McAfee and his group has created. And when you get so large in this case, people are going to want the successful thing. And Pat McAfee has become so successful. You're right, Brad. It's going to take something catastrophic. I mean, we didn't even touch on what happened with Aaron Rodgers, by the way, that whole debacle and shit. And then Aaron Rodgers said, stay tuned tomorrow for him to come on and talk. And you, whether you like Aaron Rodgers or not, it's irrelevant to the point. It's specifically saying that Pat beats to his own drum. And he believes that he wants to run it the way that he does. And whether people like it or not, he's going to be himself. But he does have a lot of people that love what they do. And in this case, I think the biggest ballsy thing is, can you imagine telling one of your bosses, yeah, I don't like you. I know you don't like me, but what are you going to do about it? Like, that's essentially what Pat's saying. And he goes,
no, not even that. Imagine saying that to one of your bosses on camera in front of 500,000 people.
By name.
Yeah, by name. It's not even just saying to your boss that you don't like him.
One of my bosses is trying to sabotage me. You're naming him. Like,
yeah.
You're calling him by his first and last name and letting everyone know who it is. Right.
Probably knowing he's insecure about being named Norby.
which Brad has pointed out.
As this is probably the reaction he wanted from people like Brad, who would immediately be like, also, Norby, that's a dumb name.
Wasn't there I know I'm wrong already, but was that movie Norbit? Not Norby, but Norbit was
Norbit. Norbit's hilarious. It might not have gotten the ratings that everyone expected it to get, but it was so fun. I'm saying what? Have you seen Norbit, or are you too young?
No.
Well, you should go watch Norbit. It's hilarious.
I'll add it to my homework.
There's a lot. You haven't seen a ton of movies. I mean, I think I did realize that you have seen Dumb and Dumber, which at least is good.
Thank you.
Hey, you do.
Tell me there's a chance.
It's so funny, man.
But for Pat McAfee, also, if you look what he's transformed in College Game Day, he has brought that ruggedness and that authenticity to a mainstream network, and it's blossomed but also in the process, the brand has grown. And that's something kind of that we want to eventually, be able to do, is continue to grow, see where it goes, and be able to try to be a part of the next generation. Because whether people are like it or not, this is where media is going. Media is going to more digital, easier access. And also, who do you want to get your information and who do you find entertaining? Doesn't have to be me. Could be Rocco, but might not when he's got his head down and hat down. Could be Zach, depending. Okay. Or if you like looking at him, Yeah. So that's
mustache. It's got some mustache.
I know we're not talking about you.
I was talking about you.
Sherry said someone's very easy on the eyes. I wonder who she's talking about. Is it Zach?
Thank you, Sherry.
with those Dahmer glasses on, you think Zach's easy on the eyes?
Can you pull your hat up? Pull your hat up so we can see your face.
Yeah, you actually should tilt it a little upwards so we can watch it. Yeah, other way. There you go. That's better.
There you go.
Everyone's been talking about it.
Thanks, Dahmer.
All right, guys. Enough's enough with this. Time to get on our Adams Jeep and let's talk about some Ravens here. But you guys hopping on the Jeep? We getting there?
Drive the Jeep.
Driving the Jeep. Driving the Jeep. Wow, Rocco, that seems like a very unsturdy drive right there.
I'm trying to reach over my computer.
Yeah, why are you both you guys moving while you're going?
It's we are off-roading on Adam's Jeep.
We're bumping around.
So,
oh my God. Now riding dirty.
Yeah, now that's key for what not to do. But Adams Jeep of Maryland, it's a proud sponsor of us with the Ryan Ripken Show. And as you can see behind on the banner behind Zach,
can I stand? Should I stand side by side?
No, we can't get the camera that angle unless I stand.
Right at the end.
Okay, we'll do the.
As I got roasted last week.
You did, and I love it. And also, by the way, they do have that Orioles Jeep. If it's not sold before then, we are going to do events with that. By the way, but if you do sell it, the Ryan Ripken Show will be there to be a part of the experience. We guarantee. That's my word. But Adams Jeep of Maryland, if you have services, parts, really anything, they are great to work with. Great people. Really enjoy getting the chance to work with them. And I will have more up on information if you guys are interested on videos on the channel. All right, guys, we talked about guys that could be out of, leaving their areas. Justin Fields, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. We know that the Ravens are not going to have their entire roster for next year, right? It just can't happen. And there's so many talented players. You're going to have to pay guys. Someone or multiple people are going to move on. That's the nature of the business. But the goal is still on going to the Super Bowl in Vegas, winning the Super Bowl in Vegas. But the Ravens just got past a very gutty, gritty game Pittsburgh. And the bigger part is that they couldn't rest everybody. And actually wanted to talk the first one, Rocco, you got to, and hey, you actually look pretty good in the video. Shout out to you.
Did your hair nice?
Yeah, your hair looked good. I mean, that's when you don't wear a hat. So why don't we play that? Rocco got to talk with Patrick Queen after the game with Vox 45 about just kind of after the game, how he was feeling and as they move towards the postseason for Baltimore.
Hey, the only ones you have up here is Adafe and
I have Queen right here. I'll do it right now. Ready? 3,
all right,
2,
throw it off.
See ya.
Take that, Brad.
Which really flips for playoff mode. He said right away. Is that the case for everyone in this locker room? Like, when does playoff mode begin?
Most definitely right now. You get one shot, and it's not a long time, so you got to just capitalize. You get one game promise, and it's not promised. I mean, the game is promised, but, when it's not promised. So you just got to do everything that you can to capitalize and seize your opportunity and take advantage of the moment. It doesn't always come around how we are set up right now, so we just got to take advantage.
It's now. Really, take care of your bodies, get ready. We got the advantage. We get an off week to get our guys healed up, get some guys back. But like I said, we get a week of preparation early than what most guys get. I think it's going to benefit us a good way. We just got to keep playing like we've been playing for the past few weeks before this game, and we'll be okay.
This is what we've been talking about since training camp. This is what we've been talking about every week, week in, week out. 1-0. So it's time to really stand on what we're talking, stand on business. Because it's here. This is our moment. So we got to be disciplined and preparation, discipline, and game plan schemes and stuff like that. Because this is our moment. It's not. We lose now and then we got another chance. You lose and you're out. So we got to seize it.
All right, so that actually was the combination of Patrick Queen, Adafe Owe, and Jadeveon Clowney.
I thought it was going to be a different video, honestly.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And that was
your fault.
Okay, well, thanks for the help, Rock.
Yeah, I mean, I just tried to do my part.
Well, okay, but so let's start with the first part, Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen really was in for a majority of the game, which made a lot of Ravens fans nervous, very nervous, but he is okay. Obviously, every player gets a little bit banged up at the end of the season. Everyone was nervous about Geno Stone there. But overall, Rock, and we'll start with you being in the locker room. This Ravens team seems really, really motivated and determined. Now that that game is by them against Pittsburgh, all eyes are on that divisional matchup, whoever it's going to be.
No, this is a hungry bunch. And if you look at their playoff schedule, like the bye week schedule practice-wise from 2019, it was much lighter than it is now. This is going to be like a normal week of practice. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Michael Pierce said they're going to do like a closed stadium practice on Saturday. Yeah. So they're going to be working. They're not going to be away, like hanging out with their families. They're going to be strictly business and locked in. We've talked about locked in. It's a theme of this season, from Lamar to Roquan Smith to a ton of other guys. This team is locked in. They're ready to go. I even asked those guys, I don't know if we have that video. If we don't, it's okay. But I asked them about the doubters because I said, listen, you guys have locked up the 1 seed. You locked up a first-round bye, but there are still going to be people out there that doubt this team. And Adafe Owe was like, all I got to say, the only message I have is no U-turns. It's like, no turning back. No turning back if we go and win this thing. And that's really how this team feels. They're close. Multiple guys have said this is the closest locker room they've been a part of since college, since high school. So it's not just about the product and the talent they're putting out on the field. It's about how locked in they are as a group in the locker room and the chemistry they're building week in and week out, day in and day out with each other as well.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like this is it's a team that is, we've talked about teams being together, and when things go well, you can see after the Ravens beat the Dolphins, how excited the culture, what they've worked on, it embodied really everything that Baltimore's been this year. A very tough, competitive football team that also loves to have fun. But Zach, as everyone knows, this was a very similar situation for the Ravens in 2019. And obviously a lot of these, a good amount of players weren't a part of that team. But that's the narrative as we go into the playoffs here is, can the Ravens, now with the bye yet again, they have that time off, are they going to be rusty when the time comes?
What was it? 2017, the Ravens went into London against the Jaguars and got absolutely destroyed. Come to this year, Ravens have to go back to London, and they completely changed how they approach the game, travel, practice, everything, and they go out and beat the Titans. 2019, the Ravens get the bye week, and like Rocco said, it was a little bit more relaxed. It was more of a bye week. It was more of a, okay, let's rest up. Let's get guys, you do your own thing. But for the most part, it's a bye week. This year, it's not like that. It's a practice week. It's okay, we don't know our opponent, but we are going to continue to compete against ourselves and stay in that mindset of we are in go mode. So now it's, 2019, a lot of people want to say it's the same. I don't think it's the same at all. I think this team is very different. And the way I saw it, I brought this up last episodes, when they were up big on Miami, John Harbaugh pulls aside guys after a touchdown and says, hey, keep reminding everyone, we've been here before. Keep your, we're going to score. Keep the gas on the pedal. And that's been, I think, the biggest difference is these guys aren't satisfied right now. They're not going, oh, we're the 1 seed. We got to play. Anyone's got to play us. They're going out there and they're saying, we need to go take it to whoever has to come to Baltimore.
Zach, looking at their, they didn't take a bye week after the London trip, but they came back after that game, after maybe some jet lag.
Yeah.
And they went out and beat the snot out of the Lions, if you remember, 38-6. After the bye week this year, they took it week 13, and they just had a grueling stretch going forward, and they responded accordingly. They did give up 31 points to Los Angeles, but they have some weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they showed it in that game. To not the Chargers, to the Rams. So they ended up winning that. It was a walk-off Tylan Wallace game where he walked off with the punt return in overtime.
Very good Rams team.
I think this team, like you said, and players have said it, it's a different team than 2019. And players might not have said this, but they're much more talented than they were in 2019.
Much more talented, and I think
both sides of the ball.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think right now you're seeing, Zach, great example. The Ravens are trying to not let history repeat itself. And nothing bothers you more as a competitor than having to live with past failures. If you're that set on what the aspirations are. And what I mean by that is the Ravens want to win a Super Bowl. 2019, the vibes were high. The Ravens just steamrolled everyone. And then in an instant, the Ravens were done. And it was like, what the hell happened? And as a player, for me, I look back when I played, baseball, not even an amateur, if I was playing basketball or whatever it may be, when we had great moments, if we failed to reach an expectation as a team, it stuck with me. It pissed me off. And I still even remember back to high school, my senior year, and I didn't have the next chance to rewrite that. And this is on a smaller level, but just for people to understand this, when you feel like you go out there and dominate, and for my senior year, we were the best team in high school. We were the best team in the conference. And all of a sudden, we sucked for the last week, the most important week. And that was the end of my high school career. And that shit stuck with me. And that was a failure I couldn't get back. For players, they might not get another opportunity. And the guys that did get another opportunity that are leading this team right now, including John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, Marlon Humphrey, they are making sure that this team remembers what happened in 19. Because unless and that's the other thing that's crazy, as great as the Ravens have been all these years, they've never hosted an AFC Championship game.
No. And I think the biggest difference is 2019 did not have the ability to get punched in the mouth. As soon as Tennessee came out there and took the lead, and the Ravens couldn't just induce their will and go and, run it down your throat and dominate the game, as soon as the 2019 team was behind, it was over. We've seen multiple times, they're down 5-0 after some catastrophic stuff goes on in the 49ers game, come back, dominate. They're down 7-0 after Miami, a top offense, just flies down the field and takes the lead. Then they go out and dominate. This team has been punched in the mouth over and over, and they've responded unlike a way we ever saw the 2019 team even need to. And I think that's the biggest thing is 2019 hadn't gotten punched in the mouth first until the Tennessee game, and they didn't have a way. They had to learn on the fly how to get out of that. This team has been there. They've fought through those situations, and they are much more equipped offensively and defensively to handle those situations.
Yeah, and also too, when you look at the resting part, they're going to get guys healthy on the defensive side. And, hopefully it seems, Rock, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like Geno Stone, should be okay.
Seems like he's good. He was Harbaugh came over to him. He like if it was a serious injury, in my opinion, Geno Stone would have been in the locker room. After he came out of the medical tent, he was sitting on the bench and then he actually like stood up. So he was
I saw him
and in the
walking
locker
around.
room afterwards, he was standing up at his locker getting dressed. He didn't do an interview, but he was kind of like, all right, I'm going.
After the game, I will say, like, when they had like the post game, everyone walking on the field, I saw him walking around and like dapping a few guys up. And that's when I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was kind of like a sigh of relief where it's like, okay, he should be good.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the bigger part too, when we're seeing the Ravens, what was a narrative for the Ravens so far? What are you guys laughing about over there?
Nothing at all.
Don't stare at me.
Just laughing at Zach as usual.
What was the question, Rip?
I think what was a narrative for the Ravens going into the season and early on in the season, or maybe midway through or midpoint before they hit the gauntlet?
They couldn't finish. They couldn't finish games.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that the Ravens have emphasized here when they've gone and played the San Francisco 49ers, the Miami Dolphins. Now the Rams,
the LA Rams are that sneaky.
The Rams are the one team I would not want to see in the NFC outside of 49ers. I think that they are legit. And actually that game with the Lions, by the way, that Stafford's got to go back there.
Oh my God. I like literally have chills thinking about it right now. What a story. I know the NFL was so excited when that ended up happening. I mean, perfect storyline. Lions are hosting their first playoff game in 30 years. And who is it against? Matthew Stafford. Like, it's full circle. It's incredible.
Yeah. And then also we'll dive into that later in the week, but Stafford versus his old team, Goff versus his
everything
old team,
about it.
Everything embodies with it. But the point being, the Rams are playing extremely good ball right now. But the Ravens, instead of finding a way to lose the game down the stretch, they closed it out, or they found a way to win en route to being the best team in the AFC. And actually, speaking of the Lions, though, we wanted to touch on this. Did you guys see what happened to Sam Laporta, the star tight end for the Detroit Lions?
It's just
terrible.
Sad.
So in that case, for people that don't know, Sam Laporta, he actually, I believe, broke the rookie record for receptions for a tight end.
Yes.
And he got that on his first reception. It was the first touchdown of the game, if I'm not mistaken. I would have thought that's a good time to get him out.
Yep.
And maybe some of the other guys. Amon-Ra St. Brown played the whole game. He balled out. That dude's a dog.
And he has blue hair now. Just kind of side note. I just saw that posted on the NFL like 5 minutes ago. He dyed his hair blue for the playoffs.
Perfect.
Yeah. But like, my thing is like, there's been some questionable things about Dan Campbell, and we've always like kind of brushed them off or kind of made fun of him a little bit just because like, oh, it's just Dan Campbell because he loves football. But then when it comes to like stuff like this and even the call against the Cowboys right towards the end of the game and continually just going for it to try to win the game after and we talked about it last week, right, where he was on the radio and kind of getting tore up there. But in this game, it's just, you have a good team, yet they're full of talent. You've led them this far, and then you choose to play all of your players that have gotten you to this point that you're going to need in the postseason, and somebody like Sam Laporta goes down. What if it was Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jared Goff, right? Like, I just don't understand. It makes no sense. The risk that you're putting your best players in or at, it's just, it makes no sense to me why Dan Campbell would do something like that when he knows what it means to the city of Detroit, who haven't won a playoff game since 1991. It just feels like typical Detroit ball, and it's just a shame because it could have been prevented.
Well, and the culture, Dan Campbell saying, we're going to go full speed, screw it, next man up, we're going to keep playing, right? And all those players, the majority of them are going to say, we're going to go out there and play. We want to play. Most players are going to say that. When you went around the NFL circles of former players on the pregame shows, postgame shows, heard a lot of reports of going, you got to get them out of there. Because Sam Laporta is the best offensive weapon as far as for a receiver perspective for the Lions outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's who's the go-to guys? You're throwing it to Amon-Ra, and if you're not throwing it to him, you're throwing it to Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta was a red zone monster too. He truly is that next generation. Iowa just produces tight ends, don't they? It's
They really
just
do.
ridiculous.
It's absurd
ridiculous
what they've done. But this goes back to where we're going. We're circling back around. Why are we talking about this? Lamar Jackson. I know everyone's saying, "Oh, Lamar is going to be rusty," and I even saw RG3 saying there's a bad idea to sit Lamar for this case. Can you imagine Lamar playing in that game in that weather against the Steelers and that front seven?
I would have been, holding my breath the entire game if he played in that game. I was holding my breath when Patrick Queen was out there on the last offensive drive before the kneel down for the Steelers in that fourth quarter. I was like, God forbid something happen. And I know they were thin, and I know they were, down players or players were out as well. But like, God forbid your pro ball inside linebacker gets hurt there. And I'm not questioning, John Harbaugh's decisions there, but like that's a player that was out there that I was just like,
like you said, due to injury, Phillips went down.
God forbid that happens.
Yeah, no, I think Queen was a different because, like you said, they got thin because of injuries that kind of happened in the game. And suddenly they didn't have any inside linebackers behind him.
And that's what he said.
So I think that.
But he didn't expect to play as much as he did.
He did not.
He said that afterwards. He's like, but he do anything for his team.
Right. I will say Lamar Jackson would have never played in that game because had he suited up, I would have just simply gone on the field and taken him off. I would have just picked him up. And
I said when Lamar ran out for his Pro Bowl intro, I was like, they should have him. They should be carting him out.
Just
should be putting him in bubble wrap. Not that he's going to get it, but like that's just like protect Lamar Jackson at all costs right now.
Even him sitting on the sideline, I was like, make sure he is not near any people tumbling through. I was like, get him away. Put him in a box.
The sniffles. We don't need.
That was the other thing. Exactly. That was with that man's immune system. The fact they had him outside in that freezing cold rain, I was like, people, get him in a box.
He was bundled up though.
He's bundled up when it's 70 degrees. He hates the cold.
I do too. I don't blame him.
But the funniest is like when they played Jacksonville, it was like 65 degrees there, like at night, and he showed up in this massive coat, hoodie, and everything. He hates the cold, and I think it's so funny.
Oh,
that was so funny.
He despises.
I don't blame him.
He despises it. But you just saw right here. If we brought up, we'll take it up and down again. But if what happened to TJ Watt happened to Lamar, we'd be calling for Harbaugh's job. In this context, though, for the Steelers, they needed to win the game. So you got to play your guys. But for the Ravens, let's just think of it from this way. If the Ravens don't play well in the divisional game, you go, oh, it's rust. But what happens if Lamar gets hurt in that situation, and then your whole complexion of what the playoffs and what you're trying to do is done, just like that, and everyone will say, "Why the hell was he playing?" That will be the reaction every single time. There was nothing to gain in this besides maybe getting Lamar some reps, but that's not worth it. I think Lamar is a guy that's learned a lot from his previous experiences, and quite frankly, if he goes down the team's road to the Super Bowl, that's a huge hit. It's not that you can't do it. We see teams rally around.
You'll say it. You won't say it. I'll say it. The season's over. If you lose your MVP quarterback, like we've seen, like you were about to say.
I'm not going to say that because Big Dick Nick and the Eagles found a way. And with the bye, what I'm saying is,
different situation.
It's different, but at the same point, I'm just saying as a competitor, I hate as an athlete.
I understand.
As an athlete saying, "Yep, they're done." No, if Lamar Jackson goes down, you are no longer the favorite in the AFC.
No, I'm saying, and I agree, it's not completely done, but as an athlete, you can do the PR talk and say it's not officially over. I will state, if Lamar Jackson would have been hurt, it's like this team runs with Lamar Jackson.
Yes, he's a game changer.
I will say that the Eagles are done.
Yeah, I mean that's just the
Eagles are done.
Yeah,
Eagles
no one knows what they're doing there.
No.
My buddy Jason, who's sitting on that couch over there, he's an Eagles fan, and he's been saying week in and week out they're frauds. He's upset.
They are.
He's upset. He's not happy with the team.
Fraud alert.
Well, it's not necessarily that they're frauds, right? I mean, there's just lots of injuries. Jalen Hurts hasn't been healthy since week 6, and then he dislocated his finger.
Dude, that looked nasty. That looked like how Brad. Have you seen Brian Baldinger's fingers? How they're like sideways. That's what Jalen Hurts' finger looked like after that injury.
Torrey Holt's fingers.
It was disgusting.
Johnny Unitas' fingers used to look like that too. I mean,
I love how Kevin tries to go like incognito as Locked On Ravens. Like your name's not Kevin Ostriker. We know who you are. We know who Locked On
we
Ravens.
know who Locked On
Kevin,
Ravens
Kevin,
is.
you decided to sign in from the company account, not the personal account. We see how it is, buddy.
Get the burner account that has.
I'll stand up next to the sign.
Yeah, we're gonna have.
We will save it for the end of the show. We can see where Rocco
Yes.
stands, literally next
for
to
real knee
it.
slapper there, Rip. You think of that on your own? Oh, just slap the mic. My bad.
Jeez, why don't you go
Real
take a
mic
piss
slap.
again, Rock? Why don't you go take your fourth leak in the last 20 minutes?
Jesus Christ.
Gotta love
It's his
Kevin.
government
Miss you,
name.
Kev.
Locked on
Yeah.
Ravens is government name.
Yeah.
Fix the
People
mic.
know it.
Sorry, Brad. I didn't break it, man.
So I no, you're good. I actually think this is an interesting comment as well. It says Ravens, do they have to play the game? What happened if they gave the W for Steelers and not play? This is worded weird, but I think I understand what Michael is trying to ask. It's interesting, right? Because the Ravens essentially gave a W to the Steelers, and now the Steelers are in the playoffs, which, by the way, first time since 1935 that a division has every team in a division has been above 500.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
And Ryan, before Zach came onto the show, we talked about this to not count out the Steelers. Everybody put the Steelers in the bottom of the barrel, and we were like, listen, we just know the AFC North. We know how it ends up, and it's just crazy to see what took place. I don't think that anybody necessarily thought the Steelers were going to have a shot. I don't know if anybody thought the Jaguars were going to just implode the way that they did.
Oh goodness.
So many things that had to happen for the Steelers to get in, but they're in nevertheless. I don't think this is going to come back to bite the Ravens. The Steelers are who they are, but they're not gonna be playing in Pittsburgh, which has always been a problem for the Ravens for some reason. So, and a lot of other teams for that matter. So Steelers aren't playing at home for the entire postseason. I would be shocked if they got deep into the playoffs. The Ravens will have to play the lowest seed.
And it would be Pittsburgh. If they beat Buffalo, then Pittsburgh comes back to Baltimore.
Good.
But that's a Pittsburgh team with TJ Watt, who is out for the postseason. So I'm even less scared of the Steelers than I was before.
Bring them on.
Yeah.
Bring Mason Rudolph on.
You know what's crazy though? If looking at all this, let's break down the context of it, because not that, but give them credit. Mike Tomlin continues to find a way.
Voodoo magic.
I don't know what it is. It's the third
Insane.
straight year. They've made the playoffs the last 3 straight years, and all 3 seasons they've had a negative point differential. If I'm not mistaken. And then on top of it, the Steelers were 5-1 against the AFC North, right? The best division in football. And then, okay, what do we got?
I just want to point out that 3 of those wins are against Jake Browning and Tyler Huntley. So, yes, I agree. Yes, 5-1, but
it's a better record than the Ravens have against the division.
Yeah, but we didn't play Tyler Huntley or Jake Browning twice.
But also the Ravens did lose to the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and they did lose to the Browns at home.
No, I agree. I am saying, like, I think there's a big difference between.
There is a big difference, and I'm not saying I think that the Ravens are the better team. Well, my point I was trying to say is Pittsburgh was 5-1 against the division, but then they lost back-to-back games to the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots at home. Yeah. So, like, who the hell are the Pittsburgh Steelers? It's really the phrase "any given Sunday" cannot embody any other team but the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you go to Seattle and you win against the Seahawks. Are you kidding me? It's nuts. But anyway, to Kevin,
I was actually going to say this, that that cliche of find a way to win. Mike Tomlin is the poster boy for that.
His name is next to the definition of find a way to win. The fact that they have won games with Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and
Kenny Pickett, period. Just the fact that they've won games with Kenny Pickett, period. I'll say it. It's just incredible.
It actually
can't throw outside the. They literally do not throw outside the hash marks, and they win football games. It is truly incredible.
All right, let's get into Kevin's question here because it's been sitting up here for a while. Sorry, locked on last name Ravens.
Yes, not Kevin. We don't know who Kevin is.
No, we never met a Kevin. But Locked On asked, I have an interesting question. This is interesting, Locked On. Is this year Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens, considering they might lose both coordinators / multiple big-time free agents? And I believe during this show. Zach, Todd
Yeah.
Monken was getting requested.
Yes, by the Raiders or the Chargers
Chargers.
and Panthers.
Yeah.
Chargers and Panthers have requested Todd Monken.
Okay, so
I'd love to see him on the Chargers. That's an offense I'd be cool with Todd Monken.
If Todd Monken's going to go anywhere, keep him away from the Panthers.
He can't do that.
I will say this: he would do a great job with Bryce Young, but I wouldn't want to deal with the ownership.
Yeah,
from
no,
Todd
I don't.
Monken.
I don't think he would. I don't think
He wouldn't be.
wants
I
to.
feel like he wouldn't be able to run his own team.
I think he stays another year. That's my
I hope so.
That's
I love
my
Toddy.
that's my bold take. I think he stays one more year. But
I think they both stay. I think they both stay one more year.
they could, and guess what? Everyone in Baltimore would be very happy about it, but it feels like something's going to give. But to your point, I think going into this, when you're the number one seed, regardless, I think it's Super Bowl or bust. I think the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, personally, for people to stop making excuses or shitting on why he isn't a great quarterback, getting to the AFC Championship game is number one. It has to get to the AFC Championship game, win that game, and then get to the Super Bowl. But I do think in Baltimore, you're not playing to get to the AFC Championship game. You're playing to get to the Super Bowl. And with the team that you have, and you're probably going to lose one of Patrick Queen, Matabike,
Geno Stone.
I mean, so, pick your poison. What happens there? Yeah, I think that it's Super Bowl or bust for the Ravens. And you know what? Good. This team, this team doesn't want anything else. If it's no consolation prize. Oh, we won a playoff game, or we were the number one seed. No one gives a shit about that.
Yeah,
I will say this. I don't think that the Ravens are in a spot like the Rams were the year they won the Super Bowl, where it was a Super Bowl or bust type of situation for them because all of their team was gone, right? They had Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford, and that was Cooper Kupp. That's it, right? I do think obviously Ravens are going to lose some players next year, but one thing that Eric DeCosta has been able to do is play salary cap games and bring in some ridiculous talent for dirt cheap. I mean, we're looking at Clowney, we're looking at Van Noy, a lot of the other guys that they were late sign-ons that just made this insane defense. And you look at the Lamar Jackson's record before the season, they were always in contention for the Super Bowl every year that Lamar Jackson's been in the league, except for maybe his rookie season because they just weren't throwing the ball. But and obviously injury played a part in the last two seasons. So I'm not worried about the Ravens moving forward, whether we win the Super Bowl or not. Obviously, I would love for them to win the Super Bowl this year, but I don't think it is a situation in which if the Ravens don't win this year, then it's like they're going in full blown rebuild mode. I don't think.
No, I wasn't saying that. Rock, what were you saying?
I was just going to say this is something that comes with success. This is what you saw. While the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl last year, they got there and their staff was stripped. Offensive coordinator goes to the Colts as the head coach. Defensive coordinator goes to the Cardinals as the head coach. Both guys were heavily pursued, and they were hot commodities in the coaching world. And that's kind of what you're seeing starting to happen with the Ravens. As you build success, as you build a team like this, and your offense is clicking and your defense is clicking, your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator are going to be looked at all the time as head coaching candidates down the line. I mean, these guys are so talented at what they do, and they've really, the success of this team is because of them, and obviously the players as well. But Brad, you brought up a great point with Eric DeCosta, and I don't know if this is the point in time where we want to play this clip, but Trenton Simpson was a guy, like if Patrick Queen does leave, it would rip my heart out to see Patrick Queen leave. And here's why. The writing might be on the wall with that after they declined his fifth-year option, but this is a guy that just lays it on the line every single day in every single game. I mean, wherever he plays, he'll be a Raven for life. But when they did draft Trenton Simpson, it looked as though, okay, we potentially have Patrick Queen's replacement here as another inside linebacker. He can play inside, he can play outside. That's where he's comfortable playing. And then to see him have that game against the Steelers, Jadeveon Clowney, he talked about it after the game, and we have the clip, I believe, Rip, and he just, was praising Eric DeCosta and what he's been able to do and build with this team over the years.
Yeah, so let's play that real quickly since you brought it up of Clowney giving props to Eric DeCosta because EDC has done a tremendous job.
This GM here don't miss with his draft picks, do it. He got some dogs out here. He drafted a good group of guys from Matty BK to him to Zay to everybody really, but good group. And they out there playing at a high level, playing great for the Baltimore Ravens, and looking forward to seeing them guys in the future.
I mean, right there.
He don't miss.
Yeah, I mean,
don't miss.
You look at the first round draft picks last year; they're both Pro Bowls.
Mhm.
Hamilton and Linderbaum.
You look at the first round of this year, Zay Flowers looks all-time, sets 2 records for receiving yards and receptions for a rookie receiver on the Ravens. It really, the past year, even Patrick Queen, his first ever draft pick, or no, sorry, Hollywood Brown was his first one after the 2019 year. Everyone kind of got on him and was like, he picked Hollywood, then he got Patrick Queen. Is he that good at drafting? And you got to give these guys time to develop, because now we see why Madubuike, Patrick Queen, as they've developed, they're stars. And this is what the Ravens saw. And you can't judge them. Patrick Queen came in, I believe, as the 9th oldest player to ever play in an NFL game. So he was just extremely young. And now we're seeing what the Ravens saw, why he's a top linebacker in the league.
Yeah, I mean,
Rocco, I just have one question, because
yeah, absolutely.
We always ask the burning questions here on this show. Did you actually want to help Jadeveon Clowney with his hearing?
Yeah. Did you ever offer?
It was funny because I had the mic so close to his face, because that's what you're supposed to do. It gets the best sound. And he kept hitting the mic with his hand, trying to put his earring in. And I was like, God forbid, like, he gets like a laceration on his hand or like cuts it. Like, I'm going to feel like the worst human being in the world, and everyone's going to run me out of
Jadeveon Clowney has to miss the playoff
reported.
game because he cut his hand on Rocco's.
So I was like,
breaking.
But I did want to help Jadeveon with his hearing, because it looked like he was struggling at that point in time. But he's, super nice guy. Thank you to him he was putting the earring in, doing the interview. And it was funny though.
We got great content. No accident.
As Baltimore sports fans, this city is blessed to have 2 phenomenal GMs in Mike Elias and Eric DaCosta. And Orioles fans, you might feels one way or another about the lack of moves the Orioles are making, but what Mike Elias is able to do and what he is, the cards he's dealt, he has done a really good job just turning the Orioles around and into what they're doing. And Eric DaCosta, just picking guys up off the couch, signing them to, come in and do what they're doing. And it just and it's the trickle down effect. The GM does it. He puts these guys brings these guys in, and then the coaches, position coaches, coordinators, the head coach, they put these guys in the positions they're in to do what they're doing right now. And it's the talent, the guys, Van Noy, Clowney, Madubuike. It is incredible to see. Like, guys are stepping up. And I feel like with a team, if you're on any team, if you see one guy doing that, you're not jealous, but you want him. Did Siri just do that again?
Yes, it did.
How are you?
I don't know what is going on with Siri. It's ticking me off, but it just read my entire, that whole thing back to me. But if you see a guy doing well, I feel like as a football player, you want to be better. It makes you want to be better, not in a jealous way, not in a bad way at all, but it makes you, like, that motor is going. So these guys, they make each other better. And that's what this Ravens team needs on both sides of the ball. It's great to see.
And to answer, to finish that, because you brought up, Brad, yes, I think just the expectation is that the team expects it's a Super Bowl or bust, because that's just where the franchise is. But as long as Eric DaCosta is the GM and you have John Harbaugh that has that culture set in that locker room, and it's embodied that for the last 15 years, right? It's approaching 16 years that John's been with Baltimore. And then obviously what if number 8 Lamar Jackson plays? If he's on the field, you have to feel very confident about the Ravens for years to come, because of the success to bring guys in, set a culture, and then have a transcendent superstar at the quarterback position. You got to feel good about it. But in the short term, the Ravens aren't in it to win division titles and to get to the playoffs. It's get to the Super Bowl. And the Ravens have won 2 since 2001. They're trying to add their first one since 2012 season. It is a Super Bowl or bust year for them because of how talented they are and of what they expect as a team. And do you have one poll up, Brad? I meant to ask you.
I do have a poll up. Before we get to that, though, I just wanted just a closing thought on this, and we can put it to bed for the show. But I think, obviously Lamar Jackson had 2 injuries for the last 2 seasons, and that kind of set the Ravens back. I think there is potential for Baltimore to have a dynasty type squad moving forward. When we look at Lamar Jackson, we've got him locked up, obviously, for the next 5 years. Zay Flowers had a record rookie season for the Ravens. Then you have Mark Andrews, who's locked up for a few years. There's plenty of core players that are here for a longer term that could turn this team into a dynasty type team. And you have the Chiefs that have kind of had a bit of a setback this year, and there's some questions there. It could be the Ravens that end up taking that spot because of the talent that the core and the core players that they have right now that they're going to have for a long time. So
yeah,
I'm excited
for
what's to come.
I'm ecstatic. They got some great young pieces as well. And you want to see the evolution. You just feel like Lamar it's a new era of
new era 8,
but a new era of his game. It continues to grow and evolve as he's been in the NFL, but you got to win the first Super Bowl first and foremost to be able to get the dynasty going. And I saw a couple things here, Dr. Rush, and actually on Twitter and Instagram for us, we have some clips here of Sean Merriman talking about what Chuck Smith, the outside linebackers coach, what he has meant. And Sean Merriman said that Dr. Rush is the guy, and he doesn't believe it's a coincidence that the Ravens are having such a great year, or those players, Matabike, Van Noy, Clowney, and some of the other guys are having such a fantastic year. And we did talk about Mike and Todd Monken for tuning in. I think this, you guys brought it up. If your team's playing well, the coordinators are going to get opportunities, and that's awesome for them. You hope if it's the right opportunity, they take it. It's the best thing for them. But if it's not, keeping that continuity in Baltimore is always a nice thing.
This team believes, and I think Melissa Kim put out a tweet. She talked with, I think it was Malik Harrison, and he brought up the fact that it's like the 12-year in between the first Super Bowl and the second Super Bowl, 12 years in between that Super Bowl to now could be 12 years. And wouldn't that be something special if they did it in another 12-year span? And this, like this team really does believe. And, talking to Odafe Owe, other guys before the season even began at that stadium practice, I spoke with him again and had to revisit that conversation. He was one. I mean, every player is going to say it. If you ask someone their goals, what are they going to say? Like, oh yeah, we'd like to get to the first round of the playoffs, or we'd like to make the playoffs. It's like, no, it's Super Bowl or bust every single year for every single player. That is what they want. But I feel like Odafe Owe, he truly believed what he said when I was talking about him, with
I agree. I think all of them do. I think that's what's special about this group is they all truly believe that this team can be one of the best. They went into the year and they said, we're going to be a top defense. We're going to be a top offense, and we're going to go.
Well, if you're going to say that, we might as well play the clip.
Plagiarize the clips out.
There we go.
Practice of the season. You were fired up, man. I asked you about your expectations. You said, I think we're going to have the best defense in the league.
I feel like we can be the best defense in football.
I think we're going to have the best offense in the league.
And then on top of that, I also feel like we can be the best offense in football.
And I think we're going to go ahead and win the Super Bowl.
And then on top of that, I feel like we can win the Super Bowl.
Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, but I don't want to jinx nothing. Obviously, I said it back then because I really honestly believed it. I feel like we're just so good on all, fronts and stuff like that. So I truly believe that, best defense, best offense, and we have a really good chance to win the Super Bowl.
Great minds think alike. I was just saying that.
It's like you watched the video.
It's almost like I knew he was going to say.
Yeah.
I think it's because me and Odafe are just.
It's almost like you quote retweeted that and said something on it or something like
You're welcome for that, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome for that.
I'm honored when I get a retweet from Zach Bollinger. Like, I'm so happy. I just honestly brings a tear to my eye. I'm like, oh my God, Zach retweeted me. I'm so happy right now.
Get the back on Ripken. Get it back on Ripken. Jesus.
I don't know what to do with you guys sometimes. I really sit there and think, could this go on or will this stop? And you actually stopped it, Zach. That was a big step for you. But in other cases, you guys will just banter back and forth over there. And I'm looking over during this whole show. And it's literally, and then obviously, Brad will cattle you in to make sure everything's okay, but he can't do that right now. So it's kind of hard. So I have to look over and be like, what the hell are you doing over there?
It's always entertainment.
We need shirts, Zach. Dumbass 1 and Dumbass 2, or vice versa.
We'll get them.
That would be perfect.
I couldn't agree more. Zach or Brad, before we get out of here, what was the final poll?
So I actually asked everybody who the scariest team to face in the divisional round would be. I think I messed up with the Bills.
Oh no,
the Bills are second seed, right?
Correct. They can't be the Bills now.
Okay, so then we'll just exclude that one. But Browns, Texans, Steelers, and Browns took the lead on that as
Yeah.
the scariest team to come into M&T. If I think honestly, CJ Stroud and the Texans probably could be the scariest team. The only reason I think that is because everybody's already kind of counting them out. They're already expecting the Browns to torch them. I think CJ Stroud and the Texans can be a very scary team. I don't know if the Ravens have already faced them in week 1. That was CJ Stroud's very first game of the season. I think, very different team for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, granted, CJ Stroud hasn't seen a defense like the Ravens or the Browns, so it'll be very difficult for them to do it, to take it to both teams. But I just wouldn't count out the Texans.
I love what CJ Stroud's doing. DeMeco Ryans, it's historic. And actually, the last time a rookie head coach and rookie quarterback went to the postseason, it was Andrew Luck and Bruce Arians at the time that was taking over for Chuck Pagano, and that was that game in Baltimore. The Ravens won the last ride for Ray Lewis. We all remember that. That followed the Ravens. But Joe Flacco, that's the guy. He is that to me. I do understand. Like Zach might have been too young to really understand that we had the greatest road quarterback in playoff history.
He got
in
playoffs.
Baltimore.
He got playoffs.
And so, no, but what I'm saying is if he beats the Texans this week, he'll have 8 wins on the road, which would, I think, break a tie with Tom Brady.
Oh, no, don't worry. I pushed multiple Flacco agendas. I know what I'm doing. I know the stats.
But do you remember him?
Yeah, I got a day off school because we won the Super Bowl. Yeah, I remember.
Was that in kindergarten or first grade?
7th grade.
Oh.
7th grade. I had a bio quiz the next day. Okay. Didn't actually because we won and we got off.
That's neat.
Very nice.
You're a good kid. But playoff Joe, that should be a fun game. The storylines, and we'll jump into the storylines. And like we said, we might have the show coming up on Wednesday in the future because of the fact of just some different scheduling on for the rest of the week. So stay tuned, but we will talk more about these playoff matchups because they are spicy. We talked about Stafford going back to play the Lions and Goff playing his former team, Flacco and CJ Stroud. That's just the tip of the iceberg when we're looking at how great some of these matchups are going to be. And unfortunately, Shekel, I know you've been following the program for a while. Really tough final couple weeks for the Dolphins. You went from 1 seed to 2 seed to on the road, and your entire defense is hurt.
Yeah.
So, and you got to go have a day with the Chiefs in the freezing cold, and Tyreek goes back to Kansas City.
Don't you love the NFL? Don't you love the NFL?
Yeah, the script was written. It really was. So I think, guys, it's almost game time, or it is game time. They probably didn't kick off right.
Hell no, they said 7:30. They're gonna kick off at 8:15 after they do 45 minutes of introductions.
Right, they're on Ryan Ripken time.
Yeah.
Whoa. Don't give me that shit with the Ryan Ripken time.
Yeah, college football kickoff is really like us. It says 7:30, but like right now they're like kind of catching the vibe. They're like, "Are we ready?"
Do you think Joe sends emails to them and complains like he does?
I hope he does.
I really hope he does.
Joe, you better. NCAA better be getting a strongly worded email right now.
They better be getting some Red Bull tweets as well.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
They really
should.
should.
Energy with them.
They really should. But keep that same energy with Rocco because he deserves it. But hey, it was great having Rocco back in studio. Zach was in studio again. We got Brett. And actually, while I wrap this up, why don't you guys, so we can finish off the show to see if Rocco is indeed taller than our Adams Jeep sign over there. So, but if you are new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We do this twice a week. We're going to have more for the spring upcoming. And don't act like it's so damn hard to get up, Rocco.
Jesus.
It really is tough, but we're going to be back again probably on Wednesday, and we will let you guys know. We'll be notified, but we're on Twitter. Brad's at Own the Chaos. I'm Ryan Ripken, Zach Bollinger, at Rocco DeSangro. We will be back again, but before we get out of here, let's see if Rocco is taller than the sign. I know Locked On Ravens Kevin is waiting, and here we go. And he barely did it, ladies and gentlemen. He barely did it. He barely did it. And you know what? That's a good way to end this. Rocco's taller than the sign. We live to see another day. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, for another episode of the Ryan Ripken Show. We will be back later this week, probably Wednesday. You enjoy the rest of your night. And as always, have a day, have a night, and see you soon. You're on. Okay, we're getting out of here. God.